As humans, we like to deem things good or bad in life, whether it's a thing or a person. We like to say that this thing is good, this thing is bad. I think life is a lot more complex than that, and I also think it's in another way much simpler than that. I think things aren't always this or that. I think things are a mixture, and I also want to argue that it's really neither. Things are just what they are. Today I want to talk about positivity and this idea that we can look at any situation in life and think of it as good if we're just positive and see the good in everything. Before I get into things, I want to preface this episode with the fact that this is just my take on things. I am going to be talking about referencing someone that I think has a similar mindset as I do on this, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people who do as well. But this is just how I view it. I'm not saying that I'm right about this. As always, this is just my experience and thoughts. As always, that's everything that I discuss and talk about. That's why I always invite people at the end to say, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm crazy? Because we all have our own experiences in life and how we view things. And I think it's interesting when we share them so people can go, oh, that's interesting. Let me think about that. So that's all I'm welcoming you to do today, just to think about what I have to say. And whether you think I'm right or wrong, leave that to the side. It doesn't really matter. It's more so about exploring different types of thinking and ideas. What do I mean when I say that I don't think that things are really good or bad? And I think that they're both, but also neither. Well, this idea of good or bad is a human idea. We have very human emotions and feelings, and we like to describe things as deeming things as good or bad. Turmeric, for example, we usually say that turmeric, I think turmeric is how you pronounce it, the yellow powdery stuff, is really healthy for you. It's good for you. Yeah, it's good for you, but it's not good for your teeth. I just had Invisalign on my teeth, and they told me don't consume anything with turmeric in it because it will stain the braces or the retainer thing instantly. And they were right. There was one set of trays that I had that got completely stained. They're all yellow and nasty. So it's not good for your teeth. It's not good for your Invisalign, but it's good for your health. Radiation is not good for us, but it's good if you have cancer and you're trying to treat it. That might be a good option. So again, these things are not this is good or this is bad. It depends on context. It depends who we're talking about. And medication, we usually say that one person's medicine is another person's poison. If you went to the eye doctor and you're saying, hey, I'm having some trouble reading far away, doc, do you think you can help me? And the eye doctor, the optometrist, takes his glasses off and goes, here, try these. They've been helping me see great for years. You'd be like, what? No, I can't see anything with these. I pulled that example from a book that I read. I can't even tell you what book. I know people get mad when you don't give credit. It's not my original example. It's from a book I read a long time ago. I'm sorry, I can't remember it. But I think it's such a funny example because it's so true, right? Like, we all have our own individual needs, and we all have our own medication or treatment that we need specified to our own needs. I want to talk about positivity because a lot of people who are positive or choose to be positive, I think it's a choice. I think some people are innately just very positive and happy and see the good in everything, but choosing to be positive, and I want to talk about that as potentially being a problem. My problem that I see with positivity and that I have throughout my life is that, one, it feels phony sometimes. It feels like people are just saying, oh, this is great, everything is great, I love everything and everybody, and nothing bothers me. And I think to myself, is that really true, or is that what you're trying to convince yourself of? I don't think anyone is truly happy about everything and every person. And you can choose to say, well, I choose to see the good in everybody and I choose to see the good in everything. But is that really that important? I had an assignment from my acting class that I'm currently in. I wanted to share it today because I think it's quite relevant. The assignment was to walk 8 blocks. And for every 2 blocks, the first 2 blocks, you're supposed to think of, or just be in a neutral state. Just observe. Don't think of anything in particular. Just observe and be in a neutral state. The next 2 blocks, and be in a negative state. And then the next 2 to be in a neutral, and then the last 2 to be in a positive state of mind. And then each time after each 2 blocks, 2 chunks that I would walk, I'd write down how I felt, my mood, how did it affect me. And I thought this was a really interesting exercise. At first, when I started the negative section of my walk, I felt really silly. I almost started laughing to myself because I'm like, oh, I have to find this negative stuff. I'm like, oh, this lady walking in front of me. I'm like, I couldn't think of anything negative about her. She was just walking with her groceries. And as I started switching my brain into negative mode, oh boy, did everything start piling up. Oh, there's trash on the ground. That driver's car is busted. They're probably a terrible driver. This person is standing here. Why do they have to stand right next to me? Then everything started flowing. It made me realize how often I think of the world negatively and point out negative things in my surroundings. And then I also thought about how I see things that I just cannot see the positive side of it. Without feeling completely sarcastic or ironic or just being, like I said, fake. Like you're just faking it. You're not being honest. For example, human feces. If you live in Los Angeles or probably any city, I know this is a big problem in San Francisco and other places in the world, there's human feces all over. It is disgusting. And if I walk by that and I see that, my brain isn't going to go, oh, great, I'm so glad a person could have a bowel movement right here. Oh, I'm so happy for them. That immediately my brain is like, no, you're lying. That's not true. I can't see the good in that. I can't see that as a positive thing. And I'm sure if you sat and thought about it, I'm sure you could come up with something. But again, no, that pisses me off. That upsets me. That makes me angry that's what I have to see and that people have to, I don't even want to talk about that. That's disgusting. And I'm sure most people would agree, right? That's disgusting. That's not something that you would be happy to see or you would be positive about, which is why I talk about this. Being positive only gets you so far. These are my words. This is my stance on this. You can disagree if you wish. I think optimism is better. And as I was doing a little research or trying to figure out the difference between optimism and positivity, I was like, let me get some definitions. I think definitions are important, not because it's important to be right or I have the right definition, I'm right about this. The point of definitions is so that we all can be on the same page and know what we're talking about. So I want to read this little quote that I have that I found during my Googling of these words. They are different, positivity and optimism, but I think it's one of those, or two of those words, I guess not one, two of those words that people use interchangeably, and they're not really the same thing. It's like empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is when you can see someone experience something terrible. They're in a war situation. It's horrible. You have no idea what it feels like because you can't relate. You haven't been in their shoes, but you can only imagine how horrible it feels. Empathy is when somebody loses their dog and you've lost your dog and you know exactly what they feel and what they're going through. Then you're empathetic. So they are different. They're a little bit different, right? But like I said, a lot of these terms people use interchangeably, but they are a little different. In this particular quote that I'm about to share with you is by a gentleman named, I am terrible at names, probably going to butcher his pronunciation of his last name, Simon Sinek or Sinek. I would say Simon Sinek, but I might be incorrect. He's an author. He's a motivational speaker. I'm sure you've probably heard him speak at some point. If you consume this type of content, I'm sure you've come across him at some point. And this is what he had to say, and I really liked it. That's why I'm sharing it. Positivity is telling ourselves and others that everything is good, even if it isn't. Optimism accepts the truth of reality and looks forward to a brighter future. I thought that was so brilliant, the way he phrased it. It's so poetic. So I was like, let me share that. Give him some credit there. Because that's kind of what I was getting at in my own thinking. And I was like, oh, and as I was looking up these terms, I realized, oh, there's other people who think like me. It's interesting. We live in this small world. We tend to think that we're the only one. But no, we often share our thoughts with other people. And that's something that I think I've always kind of thought about, that I've always been kind of annoyed by very positive people. And there are people who say that about me. They say, Nikki, how are you so positive? You're so positive and upbeat. I'm like, I don't think I am. I think I'm quite optimistic, but I don't think of myself as very positive, because I think optimism, I meant to say optimism, leads to innovation. It leads to improvement and seeing the opportunity in things and seeing how we can improve them and reach excellence. Because I'm about excellence, right? I don't like average and decent and it's good enough. I've never been about that. I've always thought that was for the average people. And that's okay. Average is average. It's okay to be average, but that's majority, right? A majority is going to be average. I'm interested in creating things that are of highest quality and wonderfully made things. I just finished reading a book. It's called Steve Jobs, about Steve Jobs. And it's quite a big read. It's about, I think, 500 pages. Took me a while to get through it. And as I'm reading this, I'm sure if you know anything about Steve Jobs, what I'm about to say will come as no surprise. But I was like, oh, this guy's kind of an asshole. He pushes people around and he has this very inflated view of himself almost. He looks at himself as I think it's said in the book, he looks at people as either you're enlightened or you're an asshole, you're an idiot. And I'm like, that's not a very enlightened way of seeing things, but okay, there's some irony there. But the more I'm reading about him, the more I'm gaining respect for the guy and how he handled his business and how he grew Apple and Pixar and everything that he did. And as I'm reading, something that stood out to me a lot, because he repeated this a lot, he would say that the customers don't know what they want. That's why they didn't do, market research and these questionnaires, or what are they called, little things that you fill out. What do you want? What do you want to see in our products? Because he's like, no, the customers don't know. They don't know what they want until they see it, until they have it, which I thought was very interesting. It's a very interesting approach to business and to entrepreneurship. It's either my hair driving me crazy or it's the microphone moving. It's always something. Hey, that's a great example. So if I'm frustrated about my microphone moving around or my hair bothering me, then you can say, okay, well, just be positive. Just say, oh, well, you're lucky you have a microphone, or you're lucky you have long hair. That's positivity, right? But I think optimism says, okay, well, this microphone isn't very sturdy. What's a better way for me to set it up for next time so it can look better? There's a hair floating or something here. And what's a better hairstyle for me so my hair doesn't drive me so crazy? Can I part it differently? Can I put it on this side? And that's why I think optimism is so much more interesting. There are certain things that we need to be positive about, like the weather. We can't do anything about it. If it's going to rain, I agree with the positive folks, just see the good in that. And, it's, stay inside weather, watch a movie and get to maybe clean the house or something. You can see the good in that. I think that's a good mindset to have. I don't think positivity is bad. That's not what I'm trying to get at, that it's bad. Stop being so positive. But I just think that optimism is better. It's a better choice often, because we miss so many opportunities and chances to improve something if we just look at it in a positive manner and say, this is good, everything's good enough. But I'm like, think about how much greater it could be. But there's still a balance in that, right? Like there's no real answer to that. How far do you want to push it? How far do you want to push yourself, your company, your project, whatever it is that we're talking about? When is enough, right? Because there's no such thing as perfection. But if we always look at it as something that can be improved, I think that, well, I don't know. That's my take on this. I think that is far better and more interesting, and it leaves us with a better world. And that's how humans have been for all time. Think about how things have come to be and are in existence. It's because somebody said, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we had this? Wouldn't it be nice if I had something, instead of carrying all this stuff, I can create something, a wheel. Okay, it's got to be round so it can roll, and then we got to put stuff on it. Okay, and then the wheel enabled people to create so many inventions just from the invention of the wheel. Think about how many things have come from the invention of the wheel. And that's optimism and innovation at its finest. Looking at something saying, okay, this could be better. It's good that we have this and we can be thankful. And I think that's an important note in this. You can still be positive and appreciative and all these things as you look at things and say, hey, it's great, but it could be better. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on what I'm saying? I think some people don't have a problem with a lot of things, so that's why maybe they choose positivity. They're just very accepting of the world around them and what is. And like I said, I don't think there is anything innately wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is a better choice than being negative. So if I have to choose, then I would rather choose positivity. But I just think optimism gets us so much further. I kind of already touched on this already, but I wanted to mention it again. I think the problem I have with positivity is that you are not in alignment with yourself. You're not in harmony. If you're trying to have peace and you're trying to be stoic and all these things, if you're always positive about everything, even the things that you don't like, I think there's a form of dishonesty in that. Like I mentioned the example of the SHIT that I see on the streets. Like that's not going to make me happy. I can't positively react to that. And if somebody can, God bless them, but like I can't. And that's where I'm willing to admit that I'm not capable of that. I'm not interested in that. I don't think I ever want to. And that doesn't mean that we have to let it get the best of us. It doesn't mean that we have to like get angry and take our anger out on some random homeless person because we think they might be the culprit. That's not what I'm saying. But we can look at it and say, okay, well, what needs to be done? What do we need to do as a society here? How can we help people? How can we make sure that there's enough public bathrooms or whatever needs to be done? We can look at what can improve a situation. That's what I'm trying to get at. What is it that we can do to improve the world, ourselves, everything? Again, there's a balance in that too. There's certain things that just are, like the weather is a great example, just because we don't control it. Nobody controls it. And I think that might be some people's outlook who are very positive and, well, we can't do anything about that. This person, we can't do anything about it. It's like, no, I disagree with that. I do think there's something we can do about that. I think there's something that can be done. So I guess it's a matter of choice. How you view the world. Do you just settle and accept what is, or do you say, no, let's see how we can improve it and make it a better place? As I always say, and as I will continue to say until all my teeth fall out, share with me your thoughts. I am just a person on this planet. I don't know the right answer to anything. Like I have on my main page, thought-provoking inspiration. That's my goal. My goal is to get people to think for themselves. I don't even think that I'm trying to get people to agree with me and say, oh yeah, Nikki's right. She's right on everything. No, I just want you to get to thinking for yourself, because that's ultimately how we evolve and how we can learn and grow. I don't always hear one person and think, I agree with everything they say. They're just amazing. And I think we have a tendency to do that as people. We look at someone and it's like, I like them because I agree with everything, or I don't like this person because they have a political view that I disagree with, which I think is silly. For me, someone like Candace Owens, she'll often pop up in my feed or I'll see her content. I'm not a conservative. I don't agree with her stance on everything, but she's very smart. She's well educated. She speaks eloquently. She has a very elegant presence about her, and she's someone I can take seriously. There's so many positive things I could say about her because I think she seems, I don't know her personally, but she seems like a very good person, and she seems very smart, and she seems to care about improving the world. Yet I can still look at her, even though I don't agree with her stance and her approach to things, and I don't really agree with, certain things that she says, I can still respect her. And I think that's important in this world. We don't do that. We just throw someone away because they said something we don't like, or, oh, well, they said this thing and now I can't support you anymore. Is what they said really that bad that you have to just discard them as a human, as a person that you used to support and like? Is it really that bad? And then we have to take a look at ourselves and say, well, what have I done? Because I've probably done some things that I don't like or other people don't like. And thankfully, other people in my life didn't just say, yeah, screw you because you said something terrible or something we disagree with. We have to start looking at people as people. We're all capable of making mistakes, but we're also capable of growing and learning. That is all I had today. And as always, take care of yourself. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful day, and we'll talk soon.